How important is research to your book? Well, you don't have to go looking for the answers because I have it right now. Hey guys and gals, boys and girls, authors and author wannabes. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Your old buddy Tim back as always talking about all things authoring, publishing, editing, agenting, all of those ing words that have to do with writing, publishing, and marketing and selling your own books. Hey, hope you're having a great day. I certainly am. Busy day. Look at all the notes. I'm loving this. I'm getting like questions all over the place for this show, and that's great. I love answering the questions. It's far easier than making up this crap on my own. So if you have a question you would like addressed on this program, anything really to do with the writing and publishing industry, just drop it in the comments below. If I use your question or comment on a video, you will get a free digital copy of one of my books. It's almost as good as winning the lottery. Or at least like a scratch-off thing at the beer store. That's pretty darn good. Also, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. I do these videos 5 or 6 times a week. God forbid you miss one, folks, because this is an entertainment value. So, mentioned at the top of the show, we are talking about research. How important is doing research to your book? Well, the short answer, which I always like to give, and it usually ends up being pretty long-winded, it depends on your book. Now, if you have a book that takes place in one place, say a small town, and you're not really getting out of the geography there, you don't really have to worry so much about researching for accuracy. However, if you are writing a book that, let's say, takes place in Los Angeles, like my book, Angel of Mercy, it takes place in LA and Hollywood. I had been to LA many times, but never had been there long enough to really know anything about the city. So I did some pretty extensive research as to Los Angeles, the geography, the particular architecture, of course, the weather, that sort of thing. Now, the good news, Google, baby. Google is the writer's best friend, because anything you want to know, short of, where is Judge Crater, you can find on Google. So all I did was I went to, I think I went to losangeles.com, and they had all of the facts that I needed. And, my story was set in the summertime, so I want to know things like, what's the climate? How hot is it in June in Los Angeles, California? What's the climate like? I found out that it was typically cooler on the ocean side of the state than the other side. I found out that these particular areas where these Hollywood movie lots, this is what the area looked like. I literally came out of probably an hour's worth of research with everything I ever needed to know to write that book in with the setting in Los Angeles. And what's really cool is I actually had people who bought the book, who lived in Los Angeles, ask me, they would contact me and say, hey, are you from here? Because it was so well researched. Again, thank you, Mr. Google. So when you're writing your book, think about what kind of research do you need to do. You're going to need to do perhaps geographical research, climate research. If you are doing a historical work, you're going to want to research that particular period in time. I will never forget, I was editing a book that was set in the 1700s, and it was on an island, and they were using kerosene lamps. Well, that's all well and good, except kerosene lamps were invented 150 years after this story took place. So little things like that, a good editor or a publisher are going to nail you on. So you need to do the research. If you're writing a book set in Tombstone, Arizona in 1850, go to Google and learn all you can about Tombstone, Arizona in 1850. What was the climate? What was the architecture like? Were the streets dirt? Were they mud? Did everybody really carry a gun? Was there really a gunfight at the OK Corral? Do the research. Again, just go to Google. type it in. But it's important that you take the time to do this, because if you're writing for example, my book, Sins of the Father, takes place in a small Alabama town in the mid-70s. Well, I happened to grow up in a very similar place in the mid-70s. So all I had to do then was just research my memory, which, trust me, is not as clear as Google. But I knew that things were 100% accurate. I have actually read books that were published that had the character using 21st century technology in the 20th century. I read a book that takes place in the early 70s, and everyone was carrying a cell phone. Yeah, you get my drift. So there you go, Lance. It's really important that you research things like that. Also, here's one. You need to know your geography. If your story takes place in a particular town, but your characters are coming and going from another town, you have to make sure that if you're using real towns, that's possible. And I say that because, again, I was editing a book for a client, and his book took place in Massachusetts, and he mentioned that his character kept going to Chicago. Well, he didn't realize it, but Chicago and the small town where the story took place was over 1,000 miles away. So there was no teleportation in the book, so it was literally impossible for his character to get back and forth at such a great distance in such a short amount of time. Those are the kind of details, Lance, that'll bite you in the butt every time. So make sure you look at things again like geography, location, climate, even how people talk. I've seen some books that they were using this really odd language because they thought that's the way people talked back then. Readers don't want to read that crap, folks. Just say, well, she spoke with a New Orleans accent. You don't have to really, write that out in the book because it just gets annoying. But anyway, Lance, there you go. Research is important. It is vital if you are at all interested in making sure your book and all the facts and the story itself are as true and accurate as they can be. Okay, Lance, appreciate the question. I'm going to send you a digital copy of one of my books, both of which were thoroughly researched and are accurate down to a T. So, hey, don't forget, if you've got a question or comment, drop them in below. I will take a look. I always answer every comment, and if I use your comment or question, you will get a digital copy of my book. Don't forget, subscribe, like, click the bell, find me on social media. I'm not going to give you my social media address. I think you can research that and find me just fine. And if you can't, hello, Mr. Google.